Jeez, these are just.
I am ready. Okay. Welcome, everyone, to the Town of Gilbert Planning Commission meeting for September 1st. Official opening bird hunting day. So, anyway, I wasn't out there this morning, though. All right. The approval of the agenda. We didn't have a chance to discuss this in a study session because we didn't have one. Oh, first of all, we need to have the Pledge of Allegiance. I'm so sorry. I could follow the agenda, I guess. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you all. Roll call.
Commissioner Ashton?
Here.
Commissioner Anderson?
Yeah.
Commissioner Munt? Commissioner Jones?
Here.
Commissioner Fay?
Present.
Commissioner Blazer?
Here.
Vice Chairman Simon?
Here.
Chairman Bloomfield?
Here. Thank you. We've been discussing the agenda a little bit. We'd like to move item number 9, 10, 11, 12, and 13 up to the consent agenda. If we don't see anybody who's here wanting to speak on those items, and so we'll just do that. As the Planning Commission, we just don't have any concerns about those cases, so we will move that. Vice Chair, could we have a motion? And
Yeah, so I will make a motion to amend the agenda to move items 9, 10, 11, 12, and 13 to the consent. Otherwise, approve the agenda as written.
do we have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Commissioner Ashton. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. At this time, members of the public may comment on matters within the jurisdiction of the town, but not on the agenda. The Commissioner Board response is limited to responding to criticism, asking staff to review a matter commented upon, or asking that a matter be put on a future agenda. Do we have anyone here who would like to speak on anything that's not on the agenda currently? Seeing none, we will move on along. We have a report from the Council Liaison on current events. Council member September is absent and attending League of Cities this week and receiving some good training. So in his stead, Ava is here.
Thank you. Good evening. Thank you, Chair. Councilmember September asked me to speak on his behalf. He was a former planning commissioner and knows what hard work this is, and he wanted us to give some tokens of appreciation to two of our departing commissioners. It is the last meeting tonight for our chairman, Chairman Bloomfield, and for our Commissioner Ashton. Thank you, Commissioner Ashton, for your year of service as an alternate. We appreciate the hard work that you've put in, and thank you, Chairman Bloomfield, for your 7 or 8 years on commission and your last 2 years as chairman. The council and staff really appreciate your volunteering to serve the town and all the hard work that you do, and appreciate that your families let you spend every Tuesday night with us here. Wednesday night here. So, Kyle, if you wouldn't mind handing those out. Kyle Maris, our Community Development Director. And thank you very much for your service.
Oh, and a half a cheesecake here. So appreciate that. It has been a good ride for sure. To the public hearing consent calendar, we have all the items listed below can be approved by a single motion, and so we will do that. We want to have items. Oh, I'll just let the vice chair make the motion on this. Yeah, go ahead.
Make the motion. All right, so I'll make a motion to approve the consent agenda, adding items 9, 10, 11, 12, and 13 to items 4, 5, and 6.
Okay. Is there a second?
In his motion?
Second, Commissioner Fay. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Moving on. Our public hearing non-consent items will be heard as at an individual public hearing and will be acted upon by the Commissioner Board by a separate motion. During the public hearings, anyone wishing to comment in support of or in opposition to a public hearing item may do so. If you wish to comment on a public hearing item, you must fill out a public comment form indicating the item number on which you wish to be heard. Once the hearing is closed, there will be no further public comment unless requested by a member of the Commission or the Board. Item number 7 is up and will be heard by Amy Thames, Cottage Lane, and its companion case. So that's GP 2101 and Z 2103 Cottage Lane. Amy.
Mr. Chairman and members of Planning Commission. We are here this evening to discuss Cottage Lane. It is a 3.5 acre site located at the, well, it's not at an intersection, so it's located about halfway between Elliott and Warner Roads on Greenfield Road. It is an existing old homestead site that the house has been removed and has been vacant for a couple years now. So the request is to have a general plan amendment that is to reclassify it from residential 3.5 to 5 to residential 5 to 8 dwelling units per acre. And then the zoning is a request to rezone it from SF 35, which was the old homestead site zoning, and the whole area prior to Finley Farms being built around, to SFD, which is a single family detached with a PAD overlay. And we will get into what the overlay is requesting. So here's a map of the general plan that you can see. Finley Farms surrounding is 4 dwelling units per acre per code. That is the maximum that they can have. I will note that the density to the north is 4.4 and the density to the south is an even 4. Cottage Lane is proposing 5.9. With the rezoning, just to sort of give you a little background with what's in the area, Finley Farms, under their ordinance, has side yard setbacks of 5 or 0 and a rear yard setback of 10. The builder who built the development did seem to not follow the 10-foot setback. They did seem to go with 15 to 20 foot as their common setback for most of the lots. But by right, the ordinance does allow the surrounding development 10 foot if they choose. The existing ordinance for the Finley Farm surrounding the site has 2-story height by right under code. The PAD did not limit or restrict their height. Lot coverage is 50% for the surrounding properties, and I put the smallest lot size surrounding this project and the largest lot size. And the largest lot is one of the pie-shaped lots down at the bottom. So you can see the insert in the middle on the property where Cottage Lane is proposed. And I'll point out that if you'll recall, the last time you saw it at study session, the site plan was flipped with a row of homes, the 1 through 9 on the south end and the other clusters on the north, and it's been flipped, and the applicant will talk more about that when he makes his presentation, but I wanted to point that out. And here you have a comparison of standards for the various, the project around the site as well as the site with 3,600 square foot lots and the development standards as they stand without the PAD. So now we'll get into, well, I should really go back and note that the PAD, and I'll correct myself on this, that the south boundary is 13 foot side on to the Finley Farms development, and it is on the development plan as a note. And the north side rear setback is 15 foot, and it is on the development plan as a note. And the side setback to lot 9 is 8 foot setback to the house to the property line, and that once again is in the development plan. I will also note on this that all the front yards are maintained by the HOA, as is the open space. The street meets town standards and does provide guest parking. So in the conversation, this was the previous layout, and I sort of did a comparison of a lot to lot and boundary to lot ratio of houses to lots surrounding, because that one of the large conversations that was had is, what is the relationship of the new homes to the existing homes? How many lots of the existing homes are against a single lot? Or how many lots of the proposed homes are adjacent to a single lot of the existing homes? And you can see the difference in lot sizes. This is very clear that it's much smaller lot sizes for the proposed. But one of the things that they were trying to do, if you'll note, I believe one of the residents down on the south side was really concerned in having 3 lots at the back of their home, especially when it was very much almost a back-to-back condition instead of sort of an more angled condition. But there were 3. So you see a comparison of Finley Farms to the orange is the proposed development. And so there are 17 Finley Farm lots that surround the site and 21 lots that are proposed within the development. And then at the north, how many lots? There were 7, and there were 4 lots within this development that backed onto an existing Finley lots. And then lot to lot, it was 1.3 was the ratio, with a breakdown for north, south, east, and west, or north, west, and south. And then open space. So you can see before there were 4 lots that were touching the open space, and then 3 lots along the west that were touching open space. And I count 4 on the top as 1, 2, 3, 4. And then the one on the far northwest corner, it touches ever so little, but I'm still counting it because it does touch. And then in the proposed development that you see here, ratio is still the same because it's still the same lot count. But then lot to lot, it just sort of flips. It's not that drastically different. I think the difference a little bit is maybe you have a better ratio of lot to house in that now on the south side, you don't have a 1-to-3 ratio. It's 1 to 1 3/4. And I have an analysis of that. And then up at the top, you got a 2 3/4 ratio. So it's not quite 3. So what does that really tell us in the end? So I try to do a comparison of the north lot line to see what it was like before with a lot to lot ratio, and then the proposed with the lot to lot ratio. So you can see that it did increase a little bit for the house closest to Greenfield Road in the existing Finley Farms, but the others are fairly the same. It does vary a little bit, but not drastically. And then when you look on the west, it was a 1 house to 1 ratio before, and now it's a 2 to 1, but the second house really is looking at a front yard more than the side of a house. So take that as you may. And then on the south side, you've got an analysis of the worst, not the worst, I shouldn't say that. The most impacted lot has a 1 to 3/4 ratio of house to lot, but it does split with some of the open space, the backyards down the middle. And then up on the top, you have a 2 to 3/4. So really, if I was to look at it, it's kind of an even flip. When you flipped it, some benefited, some are now next to open space, others aren't next to open space. Some have a better ratio of lot to house. The bigger lots are still going to have more home behind them than the ones that are a single lot that are perpendicular. So tried to just sort of less lot to lot and more lot to lot, and if I felt they were the same. So I just kind of tried to simplify the analysis for you to see what the change was between them. So this is the development plan where the setbacks are noted on the plan, but I went ahead and put them in orange. Development standards restated. And then just putting this in for reference, you'll see this in a design review case coming forward in the future if this is a successful rezoning. And these are the houses that are proposed. And then you can see what the rear and side comparison would be that the neighbors would be seeing. So on the south side, you would see the bottom row. On the north side, you would see the top row. And then on the west, you would see one of the houses side-ons that you see here. I will note, I'll go back to the development plan for 1 second. I will note, if you'll recall, the southern perimeter setback used to be 15, and the reason it changed to 13, and I will take responsibility for that because I realized that a pop-out was being shown popping into the setback, and when I researched the pop-out a little further, I realized it was not a pop-out that was allowed to have encroachment into a setback. So the only way to solve that was to take that 2 foot, put it back in the lot, and not have it as a setback, because the measurement does go to the face of that structure. So that is why that change occurred. It was at my request. So with that, neighborhood input. So after the last study session, the applicant did meet with the neighborhood again, and that's where they proposed the lot flip and move forward with that. The neighbors, I did include some neighborhood correspondence in your packet, and the neighbors still feel that their original concerns of too much density, lot ratios, single story, having windows facing them that are 2-story to predominantly single-story homes, though they can, if they ever redevelop, could redevelop with a 2-story house. It is within their right, but at this time, that is not the way the development is set back or designed as. And then setback to match Finley Farms. Finley Farms their setbacks were determined by the developer. It was not determined by ordinance or code. So they do have more rights than what they are using at this point in time, and could use if they decided to redevelop their lot in the future. So with that being said, the town is recommending approval of this development. It is 1 general plan step higher than the existing, and the rezoning would be from, as I stated before, SF35 to SFD, with the PAD and with the development plan in place, with those setbacks as discussed set as the development standards. With that being said, I know the applicant is here this evening to present, as well as I know some neighbors are here this evening to speak. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioners, do we have any questions or comments for Amy at this time? None? Okay. Would the applicant like to speak? Looks like. Please state your name and city of residence.
Yes.
Or your address or whatever you want to do.
All right. Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the commission. My name is Chris Webb with Rose Law Group. My address for the record is 7144 East Stetson Drive, Suite 300 in Scottsdale. Really appreciate the opportunity to be here tonight and present what we think is a really cool infill project for the town called Cottage Lane. With me tonight, I just wanted to introduce the owners and developers of the property, Norm Nichols and Brian Nichols with Vasari Asset Management over here. We appreciate all the hard work that Amy and her team have put in. We've been working with them for several months now. Appreciate Amy's presentation, and we're thrilled to have staff's recommendation for approval. We've worked really hard for that. What I want to do, I think Amy did a good job of covering some of the details of the project, and what I want to focus on with my presentation tonight is really why we think this is a great project for the town and why we think it's compatible with the surrounding area. Let's see if I can make this work the right way. All right. So the first thing I want to talk about is certainty. We submitted Cottage Lane the way that we did so that there would be certainty for both the town and our neighbors in terms of exactly what was going to be built. So you may not be aware, but because tonight you're only considering the minor general plan amendment and the rezoning, but we actually also submitted a preliminary plat and our housing product, complete applications. We submitted all of them together. They've already been reviewed, and they're sort of teed up, waiting on the outcome of the hearings. And we did that intentionally, again, so that there would be no question if this property was rezoned, what would be built. Another thing that we did is that every single floor plan and elevation has been predetermined for every lot in this project. Again, trying to give certainty to everyone involved as to exactly what will be built here. So that was a key part of our approach here, was to create certainty for everyone. Quality. Cottage Lane will be a high quality development from a great development team that truly is second to none here in the Valley. Vasari Asset Management is Norm Nichols, who is the president of Fulton Homes, and Brian Nichols, who is a principal at EPS Group, both of whom are Gilbert residents. Even though this is a personal project for Norm, Fulton Homes' reputation, I think we all know it. If you've been around here long enough, you've seen many Fulton Homes projects. They are of a quality that is above and beyond, and Norm is really kind of the mastermind behind that. And so this project will absolutely carry on the same level of quality. And that quality carries through to everything that's done, whether it's the homes, the open space, amenities, the streets, tree-lined streets, you name it, it's all there. Talk a little bit about compatibility, because I know that's one of the big questions in everybody's mind is compatibility with Finley Farms. We've worked very hard to create a project that we feel both meets the needs of today's home buyers and is compatible with the surrounding Finley Farms community. So I want to point out a couple of features related to that. First off, Cottage Lane will be individually platted single-family lots and homes. You can see right there on the screen, those are the actual homes that will be constructed. So again, individually platted single-family lots and homes. This is not a townhome product. This is not a multifamily product of any kind. This is a traditional single-family home product. Additionally, lot sizes. So we have tried very hard to create very similar lot sizes. Amy talked about this a little bit. So our lots are 50 feet wide. Finley Farms are 60 feet wide. So they're quite close. Setbacks. Amy talked a lot about this as well. So we actually increased our perimeter setbacks so that we would match the Finley Farm setbacks. So we're matching setbacks, 15-foot rears, 5 and 5 sides. I know Amy said that perhaps their PAD allows them to go to 10. I don't think anybody's built to 10, but we wanted to match them. I wanted to speak real quickly to the point about the 13-foot setback on the south. As Amy said, that was the result of a pop-out that we thought was allowed to encroach and apparently is not. So the only way we could resolve that is to technically make the setback 13 feet. But nothing has moved at all. The homes have not moved any closer. There's just I don't know what else to call it, an architectural feature of the house that we incorporated to make a better visual presentation to the neighbors to the south that I guess can't encroach into there, but it's a relatively small portion of the house. So that's why that setback changed to 13 feet. Lot frontage on the common property line. That's an important one, and Amy touched on this, but I want to make sure and highlight this point. So in Finley Farms, there are 17 lots that abut the common property line. Cottage Lane only has 13. Usually in these types of infill project situations, the scenario is reversed. But I want to make that point. Finley Farms has 17. We're only proposing 13 touching the common property line. So there's also a few other things that we've done to try to increase compatibility with Finley Farms, and these are things that we've changed and modified a little bit since the study session with the commission and some of the neighborhood meetings we've had. So what we did, and this speaks to the point Amy made about us flipping the site plan, we started taking a closer look at the sizes of the homes and the values of those homes that surround the project. And so what you're looking at on the screen, this is a snapshot from Zillow that's probably about a month old now. But what we realized, and weren't keenly aware of this before, is that the larger, more expensive homes are actually along the west and the southern boundary. And the smaller, less expensive homes are on the northern boundary. We didn't fully realize this initially. So we took a look at this and decided that by flipping the site plan, we could actually match up values and home sizes a little bit better. You see on here, I don't know if the pointer will work, but, well, not really. Okay, well, anyway, along the northern boundary, if you look at the home sizes there, we've got 1,300 square feet, 1,700, 1,900, 1,500, 1,600. All of our homes are actually bigger or the same size as those, and values equal to or greater than. And then on the southern boundary, where Finley Farms has some larger, more expensive homes, that's where we've got our bigger homes now. So that's really the reason we flipped the site plan, is to match up home values and sizes better to make that more compatible. So I wanted to be sure to point that out. So site plan was flipped to better match home sizes and values. It also did actually improve the lot frontage ratio on the common property line. one thing that's important to note, Amy talked about this pie-shaped lot on the southern boundary. The reason we wanted to improve the lot frontage ratio there is because that house is set much closer to the rear property line than the big pie-shaped lot on the north. You can see that if you look at it, the pie-shaped lot to the north, that house is set much closer to the road. There's much more distance there. And so if we had to have a disproportionate lot ratio anywhere, it was better to be there. And the reality is, as you all know, with big pie-shaped lots like that, there's just no way to match them up one-to-one. So as Amy pointed out, we are proposing two-story homes. Finley Farms is allowed two-story homes, and our property is allowed two-story homes under the existing zoning. But what we wanted to do to try to address some of the privacy concern is we prepared these floor plans so that there are no living rooms or master bedrooms up on the second floor. Okay? And so when you see these windows here, all of those windows are smaller bedrooms, usually children's bedrooms. So there's no big living, congregating areas or master bedrooms on the second floor. And we did that to try to improve privacy. Additionally, you know, we've made some other commitments to the neighbors to raise up the common property line wall in some areas where it's pretty low. And then to either plant some additional perimeter trees if that's their preference, or even buy them trees that they can plant in their own yards if that's a preference. So, winding down here, I promise. This is an infill project, but I want to point out it is not a high density project. The existing general plan designation allows us to go up to 5 units to the acre. We're only proposing 5.9. So we do have to transition to the next category, but we're barely using any of that density. Amy pointed out under staff report that historically the town has approved 1 category increases in the general plan as an appropriate transitional step. And if you look around this area, and frankly all over town, you'll see those 1 category transitions. They're all over the place, right in this square mile here. And so I think what we're proposing is consistent and compatible with the development pattern throughout the town and in this immediate area. Again, Finley Farms is at 4 units to the acre. I guess the northern part's a little bit more. We're at 5.9, so really not that different. It is really not a high density project, especially for an infill project. Kind of the final topic here, density has been a big point of discussion. So I want to talk about density and what are the impacts of density, right? When we're concerned about density, we're concerned about the impacts of it. And so I want to talk about that and what we've done to try to mitigate it. So traffic is always a big concern with density. In this case, all of our traffic will go directly in and out on Greenfield Road. None of it will pass through Finley Farms. And so as we've talked with our traffic engineer, with the town's traffic engineer, they've both agreed that the impact of a very small project like this on Greenfield Road is negligible. So we don't think traffic's an issue at all. Parking is another one that comes up. Every one of the homes in Cottage Lane will have a 2-car garage plus some storage space and a full 20-foot driveway. Every single one of them. That is unique for an infill project. Additionally, we are exceeding all the town's requirements for guest parking. So we don't think parking's an issue. Trash collection comes up a lot. We've already developed a whole trash collection plan, submitted it to the town, staff's reviewed it, they're good with it. So we've already addressed that. And then finally, I want to point out, the additional density at Cottage Lane is all internal. The difference in density between Finley Farms and Cottage Lane is right there in those 8 internal lots within that red bubble. Actually 7. 7 of the 8 is really the difference. But that is the difference in the density between the 2 projects. So we've created it all internally. We haven't spread it around the perimeter. It's all internal. And because of where it's located, we truly don't think it's very visible at all or will have an impact on the surrounding community. We've done that intentionally. In terms of the neighborhood work, you know, we have worked really hard with the neighbors over the last several months. We've had a lot of good discussions. You know, we've had 3 neighborhood meetings, a lot of communication with the neighborhood liaison, Mr. Lawson. He's been great to work with. And, you know, we've made some changes. We've flipped the site plan and done some other things. We know we're not going to make everybody happy, but we really feel like this is the most compatible and appropriate plan for this location. We really do. And so, you know, I know our neighbors have some comments, which I appreciate. We've had great dialogue, and I want to say too, we haven't always agreed on everything, but the dialogue has always been very cordial and respectful, and so I want to thank them for that. World could use more of that, being able to disagree and be respectful of each other. So that's been great. You know, I know there's some, you know, some things in the staff report, petitions and such, which date back to our pre-app stage. Some of those are confusing, but you know, I think that scenario has changed a little bit. You know, they seem to be pointing to a high density project and opposing a high density project, which this is not. So, you know, we've done a lot of work since then. So just in summary, Cottage Lane is a high quality, compatible development. It's a great infill project for the town. It is not a high density project, and we have staff's recommendation for approval, which we really appreciate. So thank you for your time. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them now, or if I can be helpful in responding to any of our neighbors' comments or questions, I'm happy to do that.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Webb. Anybody have any questions or comments for Mr. Webb, for the applicant? Anything come up that we want to ask Amy? Okay. Then we will thank you. We'd like to have Mr. Craig Lawson come up and speak. Mr. Lawson, we'll have you, since you are the representative, we'll give you 5 minutes. Typically it's 3, so it's my last meeting. Got to make it last.
5 seconds or 15 feet. My name's Craig Lawson, and I have lived in this Finley Farms development that Chris has talked about for 25 years, 23 years. Been there a long time, and the entire time we've had the opportunity to look at an empty field. And so, as I'm sure the committee can understand, Mr. Chairman, change is a little tough for us. And particularly when we started and we had conversations with Norman, Brian, and Chris, and I've acted primarily as a liaison with the neighborhood through Chris Webb. We've had a number of conversations, discussions, meetings with the neighborhood, and I think in Chris's presentation, he talked about most of the issues from the developer side. And I think that where the neighborhood is that if we have to have a development built, I think Vasari or Fulton Homes, however we would look at that, builds as good a home as there is built in the valley. And I don't think there's any issue with Norm's integrity or his desire to make this as good a development as possible. I think that there are a couple of issues that I would like to talk about specifically with the development, and then generally I would like to present just to the planning committee some thoughts that the neighborhood has about why are we really building this development, and so to do that, I think let me just speak first to the fact that in terms of dealing with the town of Gilbert, Amy Thames, Chris Webb have been good to work with. It's been collegial. Amy has been very good to keep the neighborhood informed, and particularly when there's a meeting or there are issues or changes, she's done an excellent job. And so I'd like to thank her publicly for that. But I guess to speak generally about this development, the main issue I think the neighborhood has is a couple of fold. One is, and I guess this is primarily with the town of Gilbert, and I don't mean this in a disrespectful way, but I guess the question to ask the planning committee is, what's enough? Okay, Gilbert currently is the 5th largest town in Arizona. It's built out currently. Gilbert is currently built out to about 200,000 people. The maximum build out is about 300,000. Currently, if you drive any of the streets in Gilbert, what you'll find is that all of the little corners and nooks and crannies that have never been built on are now being built upon. And so it leads our neighborhood to ask questions like, what's enough? You're reading the paper about issues like we're under 40% water coming out of the Colorado River. Now I know that town of Gilbert has wells, and I'm not well enough versed to know the details about that. Amy Thames and I were talking just before the meeting. Town of Gilbert, I guess water experts have indicated there's plenty of water for Gilbert. Since I don't have any sense of that, I can only go by what you see on the news or what's in the paper. It would appear that we're hurting for water. The other question that I have and the neighborhood has in general is infrastructure. There are a lot of cars, with all due respect to the traffic engineers. If you try and drive on Greenfield Road in the morning or after school, you'll regret that you chose Greenfield Road. It's not trivial, and all the streets are becoming that way. And in point of fact, I would point out, which you already know, the exchange that's being put in at on Lindsay off the 202. So gentlemen, I guess my point is basically that why do we have to fill up every nook and cranny? What's enough? Where do we draw the line? I mean, are we going to build out to 300,000 people? And then we're going to worry about water and infrastructure after that happens. I guess my hope would be is that as you evaluate this proposal, that you would consider not so much that the neighborhood is in opposition to this development, because we recognize that a development will be put on that property, and I believe that Norm Nichols and his group will build as good a development as can be built. But I guess the real question for us is it's just too much. It becomes too much. Every place you look, there's a build out, and when does it stop? I mean, most everybody in this room is living in Gilbert because it was a great place to live. It is a great place to live, but it's becoming more crowded, more complicated. Traffic, infrastructure, water, all becoming issues. I guess I'm probably running close to time limit. The other thing I would say, just in terms of specific issues with this development, are that, and Chris spoke to this a little bit, but and Norm and his staff have looked at this by all the two-story houses. All the houses in this development are two-story. The surrounding neighborhood, the directly surrounding neighborhood, there's only one two-story house. Everybody else is a single-story house. So there were issues in all of our conversations about privacy, and then in addition to those kinds of issues, the neighborhood is concerned about light pollution, noise. What ultimately is going to happen with property values. Bear in mind that the Finley Farms development that we're in, it was built the way it was built, with big lots, so that people could add shops, they could have RV parking, and with all due respect again to Vasari, this development doesn't really meet that kind of thought process, and so. I guess in conclusion, my point for the neighborhood would simply be that the neighborhood recognizes that there will probably be a development. We would hope that the planning committee gives some serious thought to, do we need to build all of this out the way that it's being built out? Do we have infrastructure? Do we have water? Do we have the necessary support mechanisms, schools, teachers, so forth, for the added people that come into the area? And so I guess I would conclude by saying thank you for your time this evening. It's been an opportunity for the last year and a half, however long it's been. I've gotten to know the guys at Vasari quite well, and they're pleasant people to work with. I believe they're honest and they have integrity, and I believe that they would build a good development. Again, I think that just to reemphasize, I guess it was my hope and the neighborhood's hope that the planning committee will really look strongly at, do we really need more developments? And so with that, I thank you for your time this evening.
Thank you. Do we have any questions for Mr. Lawson? Comments? Okay. All right. Did you fill out a form? Ah. Come on up for 2 minutes. Can you do it in 2? Very good. We'll get a card filled out for you.
Sorry. Just a couple points that I wanted to make.
Please state your name, though.
I'm sorry. It's Amy Mills, and I
Okay.
live at 2323 East Manor.
Welcome,
So,
Amy.
Thank you. Thank you. So I live in one of the houses up here, but I wanted to make the point of when the plan flipped. I know Chris was talking to you about the position of the houses. Unfortunately, Allie, who is in that corner house, who now will have the almost 3, I know it's not quite 3, but almost 3 behind her, was unable to come tonight. And I just want to make the point of, I understand that he said that it was the 18 to something type ratio on all the houses that go on. But when we look at the south side and the way that is, it really isn't. It's more like 6 to 9. I understand that we have those middle parts in the park there, but it still really impacts that. And we really didn't do anything to address. I know that they're saying it's not high density, but it really feels high density when that's going in your backyard. And I don't think that that was addressed. I know I was here for the initial meeting that we talked about, and I had conversation with Chris Rebb where he even said, well, they were looking at maybe possibly taking one house out to spread that. But if it wasn't, unless the community was on board, they weren't going to really look on that because they didn't feel that was going to make a difference to us. But I don't think that it should be the deciding point. It should be what's right. In addition, just a couple more points. I know I don't have much time here. I wanted to talk a little bit about the price point. I know that he had the Zillow thing up, but I'm just going to point out that it's a little off from that. That corner house just sold for $551. So it's really, some of the information that we're going off of isn't really necessarily up to date with what the market is.
Thank you. All right. Commissioners, if you don't have any questions for anyone, we could close the public hearing and bring it to the dais, but
I do have one question maybe we
Okay.
can address. And I don't know, Amy or Ava, if we could address the water issue. I know that comes up quite a bit with density. If maybe somebody could speak to that just real quickly on the water. Are we not prepared for that?
We are not. I have been assured that, water does review this when it goes through pre-application and that they had no concerns at that time.
Thank you.
Chairman, residents, I cannot speak to that, but I have gone to water training with our water department that was put on for the whole county. And Gilbert is in one of the best situations with our water supply when you compare us to other municipalities in the county and then in the state. So I can't give you statistics or anything of that nature, but Gilbert is in a very good place with the amount of water that is allotted to Gilbert. Certainly, I could have somebody contact you from our water department to further discuss it. Yeah, and I can't comment on that. I don't have any specialty in water.
Okay. I have one question for Amy. I'll let you get there. Oh, we have one more speaker, but it's Amy. The neighbors are saying this is high density, and I understand that it feels that way when it's a little more dense than where you live. So it's relatively high density. But this would be at the 5.9 general plan and the appropriate zoning associated with that. That would be considered medium density, or is it in our designations? Because we call it single family low density, single family medium, single family high, and kind of that is what we use for our terms on our zoning, right? So,
Mr. Chairman, that's a little bit of suggestion number for some people, but low is typically considered less than 5, and then when you get to 5 to 8, you're getting into the medium range. And then usually higher is considered, in our code though, high isn't until you're at 25 dwelling units per acre. So our medium density for multifamily ranges from 8 to 25. Okay. So now some people would say that the multifamily medium being at 24, 25 is high. And for Gilbert, that may be. So it depends on the community you're within. It depends on the environment you're used to living in. But it would be generally considered within the planning realm medium low.
Okay. So we have a low, and we have a low next door, Finley Farms, and a medium low here, and it's one step up, which is typical what we see in developments across the town. Okay. We have Mary Rougie. Oh. My ability to read is impacted. Your ability to handwrite is perfect, but my ability to read it is not right. So,
good evening. I didn't plan to speak tonight, but I live in the Finley Farms area. I am not. My name is Mary Ruge, and I live in Sagebrush Street on the other side of the Finley Farms community. But I've been kind of watching this from the sidelines. I was part of the first community meeting that was virtual in the pandemic. And I just really wanted to kind of see what was happening tonight more specifically. And I didn't know about the flip, but I am glad to see that somewhat, although it didn't change really a whole lot in my mind with the development. We moved to Gilbert. We moved to this community 23 years ago. We built in this community for its parks and open spaces and quality of life. This home, I thought, if I'm historically correct, was the actual Finley Farm residence. I'm sure in their vision that the Finley Farm community they can be proud of. This just to me doesn't fit the Finley Farm community. Where are the open spaces? Where we've got 75 to 100 kids potentially living in this community here, the Cottage Lane. Where are they going to ride their bikes? Where are they going to play? To me, it's going to spill over, and they're going to go on the Greenfield Road and come into our community, which is fine that they come into our community, but I'm looking at quality of life, not quality of the project. I understand Fulton Homes has a great reputation, and I've seen their developments, and they're high quality materials. I would just like to see high quality of life happening and be more consistent with what Finley Farms represents. Thank you.
Thank you. We have, I'm sorry, you're just going to have to say your name when you get up here. No, just come on up. And you can introduce yourself. I'm not going to even take a stab at it. So I think this is a combination of my ability to read and your ability to write, but that's just me.
Chairman, member of the council, my name is Gary Deodat, and my neighbor is Amy there. So we're just a few neighborhood residents representing, our neighborhood. But we got some big name actors here, well-known figure in the community that is proposing this project. You could hear members of the council talk about Mr. Webb talking about this is not a high-density project, but it is higher than what we already have, right? He also talks about like how will it impact us. It's different, as some of the previous speaker talk about. We only have one 2-story lot. These will all be 2-story projects in the neighborhood. This will definitely affect our quality of life and our privacy. And that's a few things that I have to offer. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right.
Chairman,
Yes, ma'am.
if I may just give a little more information on the water supply, we do have information on our website that I showed the resident that asked, and in it states that Gilbert has a 100-year assured water supply, that Gilbert has not yet grown into the full use of its supplies, and that we recharge the water, and to date Gilbert has recharged approximately 200 billion gallons of water. That's over 9 times what our annual water use is. And we have the second largest balance of storage credits among cities within our management area.
Way to go, Gilbert. That's awesome. I'm positive I want to move. Shouldn't ask that kind of stuff at a public hearing. Come on, that's not right. Okay. With no one else wanting to speak. Yes.
Chairman, can I ask one question? Just in terms of from the applicant side, but why the general plan amendment is necessary on this? I guess what other alternatives have been looked at that could have complied with the current general plan?
Commissioner Jones, the general plan amendment, just practically speaking, the general plan amendment is necessary because the current designation caps out at 5 units to the acre. We're proposing 5.9, so we're barely over, I guess. So that's why it's necessary. It's considered a minor general plan amendment because of the one-step transition. As I said before, and Amy touched on this in her staff report, the town has historically approved 1 category of transitions as an appropriate transition. It's consistent with the development pattern throughout the town. In this immediate area, I don't have a general plan map, but if you could see one, I could show you right in that area. That's all these 1 category transitions. That's sort of how Gilbert has developed. I don't know if that answered your question.
But maybe, can you tell me if you've looked at alternatives where you could have stayed within the 5?
Oh, got it. Yes. So yeah. We did. We looked at, we have looked at different development concepts for this property. And in fact, we walked all of our neighbors through it at the last meeting. We've tried to be extremely transparent in the process here. Obviously with any development, there's economics that come into play. In this case, with this, this small piece of property in the kind of thin rectangular shape, there's only one way in and out. So no matter what you do, whether you build, 3 lots or 21 lots, there's a street and a cul-de-sac that has to go in there. And so obviously there are a certain number of lots to develop that start to make the infrastructure financially inviable. So there is a financial component to this as we started looking at through all these different options. But honestly, what it comes down to for us is we're trying to create the most compatible product in terms of size and value with Finley Farms, and we think this is it. We've looked at all sorts of different options. We really have. I know Amy said that the data on that exhibit is old, and she's right. It's a month or so old. And so if the values of the adjacent homes are higher, that's great for all of us, because that means the values of our homes are going to be higher too. And they're already right there with theirs or above. So, that's great for all of us, I guess. But yes, we did look at different options and both for, the obvious economics of infrastructure and just trying to match up home sizes and values. We thought this was it.
Your time to speak is, yes, you may ask a question. Gosh, I am getting soft in my old age here.
It's a small
Come
group.
back
We're
next
good.
month. There'll be a new chairman. He will not be so nice.
Yeah.
that we might not like looking at. And the neighborhood was like, no, man, that's fine. It would be great to have one house behind us. But then when we spoke on the phone, you said what this was, but that wasn't what was presented at the neighborhood meeting, because we were like all about, like, if we don't say change the zoning, we're happy to have it developed. It would be more in line with what we are.
Well, and there may have been some misunderstanding on that. I mean, we wouldn't develop the project under the existing zoning. We wouldn't do that. It would have to be rezoned. And so, you know, are there other development options that could work? Potentially, yeah. And we ran you through all those, but we also walked through why we selected this one. And this is why we did, as I explained. So we think it's the most compatible. We really do. In terms of values and home sizes, it's there. I mean, we are not going to bring anyone's home values down. Our houses are bigger or equal to, and the values will be at or above very easily. It's brand new construction, so.
It's been my experience to watch new development happen like this, and it only enhances the values of everything around it. Given where this piece of property is today and the condition that it's in, it's been fenced off for how many years? I live less than a mile away, you know, so it's looked a little ragged for a while and been fenced off and not lived in for a couple of years at least, and maybe longer. You guys would know that better. And I can appreciate that a field and open space is always good to look at, especially when you're looking over a block wall and can't see the weeds below it. And so, but you can see the mountains above it. And so, you know, I've seen that too. So anyway, all right. I'm going to propose that we close the public hearing and bring it to the dais. If you have any questions, comments, motions, I'm willing to entertain any of those.
Chair,
Yes.
I do have a comment. So I guess another way, the way I'm looking at this project is they're proposing 21 units onto a 3.4 acre site. The way it's currently zoned, if they were to max it out with the 5 units, it's 18 units. They're only asking for 3 extra units on this site to build it out. To me, that's not a deal breaker, and to me, in my mind, that's not an issue either. It's not like they're asking for a rezone to go to a 5.8 and max it out at 8 units to the acre, which would put them at 28 units. All they're asking for is 3. So to me, I don't think that's an unreasonable request. In terms of the architecture, that's something that we'll discuss when the DR case comes before us. But for what I'm seeing so far, I think it's in line with the area, and I think it would work very well. So that's kind of my thinking as to how I think this project works and why the rezone would be acceptable.
Thank you. I do appreciate that. Anybody else? Yes.
I'd say I struggle a little bit more with this one. Obviously, the SF-35, I think it's a little bit antiquated, and probably none of the neighbors expected that to be necessarily built out that way. But I look at this and I see SF7 surrounding this entire property, essentially. I look at more of a fit from that perspective as opposed to potentially kind of home values. So for me, the increase in the general plan is more of an issue, and I don't find a lot of support for it other than the financial reason, which I don't feel like is a compelling reason on why that should be changed. So I struggle a little bit to amend the general plan for this.
Okay. Very good. Anybody else want to make a comment? All right. Please, Vice Chair.
Right, so I just have a couple of things with regards to, one of the things that comes up quite frequently when we're having conversations about building is, what's enough in the town of Gilbert, and it comes down to property rights. It's not our job to really stop people from developing a property if they own the property. So as much as I agree, traffic is getting heavy, and we've got to deal with the traffic situation in the town of Gilbert. We have to deal with build out. We have to deal with vertical development and a number of other things. But I also feel like from private or a personal property right situation, we all should have the ability to develop our property as we see fit. So that being said, the public hearing is closed. Thank you. That being said, I do understand this piece of property, and I do live close to this property as well, and the traffic that it potentially could bring. But I also agree with Commissioner Anderson that we could see this property come to us with a rezone to, classify to a much higher density, to be, one of the infill projects with apartment complex or something along those lines. And I appreciate that the applicant is actually looking at this from what I would say is a very reasonable expectation. And when we looked at this initially, I was adamantly opposed to 21 properties on this lot. I thought that was way too much. Looking at it, and again, we would downzone to 18, and they would be in line. They'd be able to develop it at that with 18 properties. And I feel like at 18, it doesn't change that development that much. That's going to positively impact the properties around it. So the way that it sits, I actually am now leaning towards actually approving this, based on the fact that I do think that what they've got here is a very nice product, number one, that we'll see later on. But I think that the layout and the way that they've gone about this, the approach that they've taken is very well noted. So
Thank you. Public hearing's closed, Chris. Thanks. Sorry, Mr. Webb. Anybody else? No, Commissioner Fay, you're always good for a comment or so. But you don't have to.
You put me on the spot. Last meeting. I'm struggling with. I was one of the people who was very opposed to it, and it really came down to the density. Not worried about the traffic or the water or any of that. That's much higher level, and the greenfield's not. This is not going to add more than 100 ADTs or whatever to the 150 ADTs to the greenfield. It was the density, and usually, and I'm kind of an antagonist sometimes, and opinionated, and I kind of fall hard on one side or the other. And this one, I'm sitting right on the edge. Kind of, is it density enough to make it incompatible with the neighborhood, or is it's only a little? It's only 3 extra units. It is an odd wedge that you have to put in just one little cul-de-sac to make it work. I'm tipping towards it is close enough to it's the old farmstead. You gotta fit something in there, and it's not that out of whack. But yeah, I'm still
okay.
Kind of grappling. I usually like to speak when I feel more decisive than
Sure. No, I understand. Nobody else? Oh,
one more.
Commissioner Ashton.
Sorry, I just want to say to the community members, thank you. I've been on your side of the mic before, and I'm always nervous when I do that. It's a scary thing to come and speak before commissions or yell at the school board. Not that I've ever yelled at the school board. I promise I haven't. Well, maybe once or twice. But I just want to thank you for being involved. It makes our community better that you are involved. Regardless of however the vote falls, it's good that you are here and that you've been engaged with the developers. I appreciate them being involved with you as they have been. This is a good thing, and so thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Ashton. My comments, since Commissioner Blazer seems to be silent and mute down there, but it's always a struggle for me when I see infill development, because I've been in development my whole career, and I grew up in rural Arizona, and when I moved to Gilbert, it was rural Gilbert. 20 years ago or so, it felt like it, and so I've watched it grow up, but I'm still proud of Gilbert. And the Finley homestead is here. It is not in its glory days. Those days have come and gone. And if land prices were the same prices as when Finley Farms was developed, then you would be able to see something developed like Finley Farms. The land prices are not there. You cannot justify that. It's very difficult to do that. And everyone who wants to have, I appreciate that citizens come out and express opinions and give us their insights. I really do. It gives us something to think about in a different perspective than what we normally see and what we see it from our perspective. And I appreciate that you come and share yours. But I look at this, I've known the Nichols, and I've known Chris Webb. I worked with them early on in my career. I've known them forever. Chris and I have talked about this twice, and have never talked with Norm and his son on this development. But I know Norm's integrity. I worked for him as an engineer, and I helped develop some of his projects way back when. His thumbprint has to go on every development, and it makes sure that it is as good as it can get every time, without exception. And this is his neighborhood. He lives down the street from this, and he's going to be proud of what he puts together. And I look at that. I looked at that character. I look at their request. It is not typical for an infill piece. It's usually a land grab, cramming everything in there, no open space, no room to play. It's all about the economics, and it's not that way here. It appears and it feels that way. I get that, but it's really not. In terms of what we see typically here in the commission on other projects, this is not a land grab. He's trying to put together a development that he can be proud of, that we can all be proud of as a community, and that will be a great place for somebody else to live in Gilbert, so that they can appreciate Gilbert as well. And like I said before, being able to see the mountains over the fence is a great thing, as long as you can't see the weeds below it. But we drive by in Greenfield and we see the weeds in there, and we see it's been an empty pocket for a long time. And I'm a fan of development. I just am. And to me, there's no reason to not see this and say this is a good project, and it will be a good one. So I'm voting to approve it. So those are my reasons, and I'm going to follow the recommendation of staff and vote to approve it. But that's if somebody wants to make that motion, unless anybody else wants any comments.
If there's no comments, I'll go ahead and make the motion.
Please do.
Move to recommend to Town Council approval of GP 21-01 Cottage Lane, a minor general plan amendment.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Second by Vice Chair. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Nay. Okay. You want to continue on with?
For the reasons set forth in staff report, move to recommend approval to the Town Council for Z21-03 Cottage Lane as requested, subject to the conditions listed in the staff report.
Second.
I'll second.
Second by Vice Chair. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Thank you really for coming. Appreciate it. Okay. Our next case up is item number, I thought it was 12. Okay. No. I'm sorry. You are correct. Wrong symbols. Item number 14. Sydney, welcome.
Thank you. Good evening, Commissioners. The item before you tonight is UP 21-12, the park. The subject site is presently vacant and approximately 0.27 net acres. It's located at the southwest corner of Hearn Way and Brycom Boulevard, so it's the vacant lot that's located directly adjacent from the Hearn Way parking garage. The request before you tonight is a conditional use permit. So we are not discussing the design review for the subject site tonight. The Redevelopment Commission does have purview over that development. And in addition to that, they also have a administrative use permit application for off-site parking in the Heritage District, which is being administratively reviewed by staff. So the requested use is for entertainment and recreation outdoors. The reason for this is because they're proposing a variety of uses that are all outdoors. They're providing a concessions bar area, retail opportunities, along with a small live entertainment stage. And this designation in our land development code was the most appropriate for the proposed uses. And I'll just briefly go through. I know that it's kind of a multitude of uses on this site, and there's a lot of questions about it due to the unique nature. Also, excuse me spelling entertainment incorrectly. I apologize. So I'm just going to go through quickly some of the uses and some of the main concerns that were brought up by residents and also the Redevelopment Commission when we were having previous discussions during the recommendation. The first being the Concessions Bar area. As you notice, all the square footages with the different uses are all relatively small. These are very small modules with the large open space area as the primary component of this. So the retail component has 3 suites, and that will be operated with independent vendors and will be available from either the street front and also internal to the site. The concessions area will be operated by OSO, which is the adjacent development down there, and they'll have a partnership. They will provide the beverages along with the food. The food will be prepared in OSO and then as prepackaged and sold on site. And the entertainment module is under 150 square feet. The intent of this is to have small scale entertainment. They have provided a letter of intent with the type of entertainment type uses that they are proposing inside of that module in your packet. In there they state it will be small duos, small live music. They also state that there will not be a DJ on site, and they have provided provisions to mitigate the noise that would come from that entertainment module. In addition to this, a question has been restrooms. There has not been restrooms proposed on the site. There is an internal access to OSO, and it has been reviewed by our building division regarding the occupancy that will be brought in by the site to use those restrooms. So that is something that has been verified by our building official that they meet the rates for it. In addition to security, there will be a 4-foot security fence, and there's also planters. It will also be gated at night. OSO will provide security, and they will also be cleaning the site as well. This is just for reference only. This is the master site plan that's being proposed with the design review. As you can see, located to the south there is the OSO development, along with the outdoor area that then connects to the park development. Enlarging into the site plan for the subject site, you can see outlined here the 3 different modules along with the entry and access points. So the retail area is located along Hearn Way on the northern portion of the site, with the entertainment module on the eastern portion of the site and the concession stands located in the center. And all of that empty space there is all proposed turf. And here's just a rendering for reference only to give you a larger picture of what the proposed uses are and how this development may ultimately look like. In order to approve a conditional use permit, you do have to meet 4 findings of fact per our land development code, which are outlined here. I'm just going to briefly go through each one of these and how the applicant has or has not met these findings of fact. In the first one here, I have outlined in yellow the closest residential developments to the site. The closest development is a apartment complex that's approximately 220 feet east of the subject site and is after the parking garage. So we believe, based off of where this is located by the bounding developments on all sides and its proximity to residential, that it will not be detrimental to the health, safety, or general welfare of persons living or working in the vicinity to adjacent properties to the neighborhood or general public. The second findings of fact has to do with, does the proposed use conform to the purposes, intent, and policies of the general plan and its policies in any applicable areas? Up here I have the redevelopment plan, which is the guiding document for the Heritage District. In addition to this, we also have our general plan, which has the Heritage District character area, our land development code, and a few other guiding documents. And we believe that this development meets the intent of the provisions within there. The third being the proposed use confirms the conditional requirements or standards required by the zoning code and any applicable local, state, or federal requirements. As conditions with this conditional use permit, we believe that it meets all minimum development standards. It also must adhere to all town nuisance and noise ordinances. So that has been a big discussion regarding noise and all those types of elements with it being an outdoor use. It will have to follow our noise ordinance per the town like every other development and is subject to those regulations along with nuisance codes. The fourth finding of fact is the proposed use as condition would not unreasonably interfere with the use and enjoyment of nearby properties. The proposed development is in line with similar uses throughout the district. It is outdoors, but it has similar entertainment type uses that we see throughout the Heritage District. In addition to this, they have designed it in a manner that is respectful to types of items that could arise, such as noise. They have designed the main concessions module in the center of the site. In addition to this, they have faced the entertainment module away from the residential, facing internal to the site to provide some mitigation efforts there as well. To date, staff has received 2 comments from the public. One was a general inquiring from neighboring property about the development. The second was a resident who is in opposition to the project. The primary concerns being cited had to do with noise in that live entertainment module. On August 18th, this went to the Redevelopment Commission for recommendation to the Planning Commission. The Redevelopment Commission did recommend approval of the project with a 5-0 vote. There was one member of public who spoke in opposition to the project, specifically citing the live entertainment use at the public hearing, citing some noise concerns there. To address some of these concerns, and this was the same resident who reached out previously before the hearing, we did add in a condition of approval regarding the hours of operation for the live entertainment. So in there you'll see that the live entertainment will be required to cease at 12 o'clock on Fridays and Saturdays and 10 p.m. on Sunday through Thursday. And we are recommending approval of UP 21-12, and I am here for questions. With us today, we also have the applicant for the project who can answer some questions for you, along with the operator of OSO.
Okay. Thank you. Appreciate that. Any questions, commissioners? Please.
So you said that the nearest property was 200 feet, I think, or 200 yards to the east. But the stage is going to be facing west. What's the nearest residential west of this development? The noise concerns are a big one for me, and that so these stages often act like megaphones, and it will carry depending on what's in its way and how far it has to go.
Commissioner Ashton, I don't know the precise measurement, but it is at minimum 500 feet away from the west. It does have to go over one set of commercial developments, the Barlow offices, along with Gilbert Road, which is 4 lanes between the two. And then on the other side, we have additional commercial on there. And then we have the parking area. And then we have the parking for our park and ride. So it is quite a bit. And then we do hit the residential over there. That was a concern that was cited of how will that ricochet from other items within the module. They are providing the vinyl noise mitigating items that are, I'm sorry, I'm not a sound expert, but it is maybe the applicant can describe it better, but is placed inside of it in order to absorb some of that sound that's internal to it. So not necessarily the outdoor stage, but the sound area. It does provide some of those efforts to grab the noise on site so it doesn't travel as far.
Thank you.
Commissioner Jones.
Sydney, the conditional use permit, does it stay with the property, and is there any term to it?
Commissioner Jones, yes, it does stay with the property, but it is tied to the site plan. So the site plan is included in attachment number 4 for this, and it's a site plan from the design review. So this has to follow whatever the approved DR is for DR 2187. If they want to redevelop the site and it doesn't comply with that site plan, they'd have to come in and amend the conditional use permit to the new site, or it would not carry.
It's conditioned to the use. Hence the name. So, great question, though. Anybody else? Oh, Vice Chair.
Yeah. So my question is, they will be sharing the restrooms with OSO. Is there a capacity limit within this space? And if so, does the town have some type of ordinance that says, hey, we have to have so many stalls per number of people? I would just hate to see some type of defecation or something downtown because there's not enough space in the bathroom or lines in the bathroom. So
Chair Simon, so we do follow the International Building Code for our occupancy, and to guide this, I did call our building official this morning just to verify again through all those documentation, since I do not review building plans, to verify as well, and it does meet the capacity for them. So they did do a preliminary documents to our building department in order to verify these numbers, and it does meet those items based off of the International Building Code and the determination of our building official. And worst case scenario, we do also have a restroom at the parking garage that's open to the public.
Okay. Anybody else?
Yeah, that was my concern too, was the restrooms, because just quick calculations of what I'm coming up with an occupant load, and I'm very familiar with this restaurant. I frequent the bar there a lot. And just, visualizing.
But only on rough weeks, right?
Just on, yeah. Yeah. So if the building department here is saying that they've done an analysis on this and say that it's per building codes, I guess that alleviates my concern. But just looking at it, I'm very curious as to how they ran the numbers, because typically when you design restaurants or just bathrooms in general, you figure your occupant load and you just design for what the minimum is. You typically don't over design restrooms. And to be honest, not really too crazy that, people that are in the park are going to have to truck through the restaurant to get to the restroom. Because the way that restroom is oriented in the building, it's going to be kind of an inconvenience for, I think, the patrons inside. But I mean, all in all, I love the project. I think it's great. I live over in the Stonebridge Lake area there, so I'm very familiar with this area, and I love going to downtown Gilbert pretty much every weekend, or I'd go there every night if I could. My weight doesn't let me do that. So, but no, other than that, I think it's a terrific project. Looking forward to seeing it.
Okay. Thank you. Anybody else? Yes.
Sydney, I probably should have asked. Usually I would have asked this ahead of time, but it says it's going to be a public park. Is that meant to be a public park as in for everyone, or for public like the way that OSO is public for its customers?
Commissioner Fay, it's a private park that's open to the public, so it's meant to be similar to the OSO patio. So it will be privately run and operated and not affiliated with the town, but it will be open to the public, that you do not need to pay to come in to utilize the facility.
People who aren't customers can literally go
Correct.
there.
That's my understanding.
Thank you. Sydney, the reason why I wanted to hear this presentation tonight, mostly because it's such a unique thing. And this little corner of downtown is being allowed to be used for a time by whoever the owner is, and allowing the owners of OSO to create this park and create an amenity that is helpful to the town and to the citizens, and kind of foot the bill. And I think that's pretty amazing. So it's the first time I've seen anything like that. So I wanted to hear more about it, and also give it a public hearing, and to be able to listen about it and to give kudos. So thank you. I appreciate that. There's somebody who wishes to speak. Sydney, will have you sit down. Dorlease. I should know this by now, Dorlease. Your last name throws me off, though. So, Machado. Sorry, that one took me a while to interpret that. But I got my reading eyes on, though. Dorlease.
Good evening. My name's Dorlease Machado Liddell. I am a resident, and I'd like just to address, I'm not against the project at all. It's just regarding the noise. And I listened to the presentation and about residents. And residents do live there and will live there. Behind Whiskey Row, that's going to be, I think, high-density multi-family housing. In addition to that, there are houses behind in that area. There are also the 9.1 acres. There's also Lacey Track, and there's some other developments. So residents do live in the area. So that's my main concern is noise. So the definition of a small scale music. Noise does not differ between small scale or large scale. Noise is noise. It does not discriminate between the type of noise. It does not matter if it's go-kart noise or if it's voice amplification or live music. Noise impacts neighborhoods. The outdoor concession bar. Well, to me, this is another Whiskey Row without walls. It doesn't contain the noise. I live there. I hear Whiskey Row. Now, because of COVID, I don't hear it as much, which is a good thing. However, that is what is happening in the downtown. Everybody likes to go there. I agree. I do too. But people sleep at night. The other people, they go home somewhere else, but we go home to the Heritage District. Now, the staff report states that they will never have a DJ. However, that is not a condition of the use permit. It should be, if that's what they're saying. The staff report says allowing the primary noise projection to be directed at development opposed to the surrounding uses. Well, the surrounding uses are not even there yet in the residential area. I just looked, and they're houses, I think they're houses, but I look like apartments, that are selling for $700,000. People who are paying that amount, they need to work, and they also need to sleep at night. So people will be living in the area, not just me. So I kind of represent more than just me. The noise the applicant states that all stage entertainment generating noise will be continuously monitored by decibel meters that will conform to the town of Gilbert requirements. The noise requirement required to be met by the municipal code, which is impossible to enforce. The code compliance individuals do not work Friday nights, Saturday nights, or any nights, so they will not be there to enforce it. We'll have to rely on the police, which is unfortunate. The conditional use permit should require that the applicant monitor the noise level and provide a report to code compliance when requested to do so. They stated that they will monitor it. This should be a condition of the use permit. That's why it's called conditional. Conditions to be met. There's a difference between concerts in a park that happen every once in a while that get a special use permit. This is a concert in a park that will happen 365 days a year. There's no, getting around it. That's what it's going to be. The issue regarding noise mitigation. How is the noise being mitigated? Will the noise be contained? It can't. Did the applicant conduct a noise impact study? Did the applicant consult the sound and acoustics expert to mitigate the noise to the residential uses? Every Gilbert resident should enjoy the same livability of all other areas in Gilbert. Just because it's a redevelopment area does not take away your right to enjoy your property and to enjoy the basic function of sleep. Entertainment district, we always talk about that. Well, an entertainment district only allows liquor to be sold near churches and schools. This does not give the owner the right to create noise that will impact residential property owners. I ask that this be continued and that the applicant provide a noise study supporting compliance with the current municipal code regarding noise. I really believe that we have to look at the future. We have to be proactive. And even though I think it looks great, but just think, it's Whiskey Row without walls. And do we need another Whiskey Row without walls? So I thank you for your time, and I hope you consider the residents, because we do support the downtown. Thank you.
Thank you, Dorlise. Appreciate your comments, as always. You always give me something to think about every time, without exception. All right. Anybody have any comments, questions, things they want to discuss? Applicant, would the applicant like to speak? Offer. There were some pretty good questions asked by Ms. Machado Liddell. Did I get that right? All right. Just in time to leave.
My name is Bob Gutierrez. Bob Gutierrez. I'm with 61st Place Architects, and we represent Oso Brewery. We got Brian Rorich, the operator over there. And I appreciate her comments, and you know, the Whiskey Row comparison. It's like, I understand that. I understand her issues, but I think unlike Whiskey Row, we face internally. Unlike Whiskey Row, we're not along a street. I think she is in a neighborhood where the sound just travels down the street. So when we cited the entertainment module, we cited it so that it would face away from the garage, from the people behind us, and then it hits the Barlow building, and then it goes across the street to Gilbert, and then it goes on. There's no accounting probably for all the different bouncing that it does, but I think the bigger sound issue is not the entertainment. The way that OSO operates is they're operating next to them, and they have a different sound system in the patio and on the inside, and so they're not going to want the sound from their entertainment in the park to be interfering with them. One of the ways, the strategies that they contain that is by having, instead of a large amplification system, they have smaller speakers spaced around to keep from spreading the sound and keep it localized. So you're not projecting a sound to go way over there. You've got a speaker that's right here, and it doesn't have to be cranked so loud. So that's their strategy for the sound. We didn't do a sound study, but it's just practical. We are going to use a vinyl mass-loaded fabric, I guess it is, that goes in. It's very dense, and so it helps prevent the sound from going through. That's kind of where we're at, I think, with the sound. Any other questions?
That's good insight. I appreciate that. The thought about the different speakers and how you're planning to contain that. So she offered up opportunities to make a couple more conditions because it's stated in the staff report. I thought that was a fair request.
I think it's fair. I don't think they have any intent to have DJs there. I know they don't have any intent. That was one of the things that when Sidney asked for a statement about sound, that was one of the first things. He says, we're not going to have a DJ. We're not a DJ. They're a family-friendly place. It's going to be more like a park than a bar.
Sure.
You know, they're going to have dogs running around. They're going to have games. And it's not a concert venue. It's just to have that opportunity. I don't know how often or how what their schedule is, but I'm sure that you would be okay with a stipulation of no DJs.
Okay. I'm just asking because it seemed like a fair request.
Yeah, I think it's fair.
So. Oh, sure. Those were my biggest ones, just the opportunity of, hey, these are statements that were made, make them a condition of it. And as long as that statement's true and accurate, then make it a condition. True. That seems fair and reasonable. Are you okay with that? So those two conditions that she talked about of no DJs and what was the second one, Dorley's? Monitoring the noise level. That just sounds like not very much fun. I'm just going to say that just sounds like not very much fun. Whenever code compliance wants,
I mean that's a rather complicated process. It's like,
sure, no, I understand that, but whenever code compliance requests it, you get to produce it, and being able to do that just it's a condition of the thing. I'm not so hot about that one.
I don't know how we would implement
just
it.
Because of the way that you described how we're going to put the sound system, how you're going to put the sound system in there. kind of makes that a moot point, in my opinion.
I've
you know,
worked-
and they own that. That's the money making
Right.
thing. This is the give back to the community
Right.
thing. This is not going to overpower that because that has to pay for this, right?
And that was the very
kinda
intent
get that.
of it. you
Yeah.
know. I've worked with a lot of bars and restaurants over the years, and the most noise you get really is people talking. I used to have an office that was across from Dos Gringos, which Brian used to be part of, and you could never hear the music. You could only hear the people talking and laughing. So, yeah, there will be noise from people.
Yeah.
But I don't think that the entertainment is going to be a problem.
It's more of a background music kind of a thing. Is what it sounds like. Okay.
Can I ask a
Commissioner
quick
Jones.
question? There was the point about restrooms. So give us a sense of weekend night, how many patrons you expecting in the park versus in the restaurant, and just get us more comfortable that there is enough facilities available that we're not going to have problems in the public.
Well, we did a calculation, and we worked with the city on it, and with regard to the statement about not building more restrooms, Brian always builds more restrooms in his facilities than are required. They're more than code. That's why we had extra restrooms so we calculate the amount of people that are in the park based on the retail use, based on the entertainment use and the park use, and add that together, and then however many extra fixtures we have, we ended up taking those fixtures, and it worked out, and we presented to the building official, and in fact they made a point about that, and we created a special calculation for them for that.
Okay.
A special calculation? Can you describe what a special calculation is?
Well, I don't have the numbers, but I think they're included. But I mean, a calculation, not a special calculation, a typical calculation that
Made especially for this condition.
made especially. Normally, we do that calculation before we go into a DR hearing. So it was special in the sense that the city had a concern about that, so they brought that up.
But it's code compliant. So whatever you're saying, the occupant load of the existing building right now, plus the occupant load of this place, work out the math with the
yes,
the tables and the calculations. You're
Better
saying you'll
said, yes.
still have enough toilets and urinals and sinks,
Yes.
lavatories. Okay. Well, it's not a special calculation to
No, it's not.
massage the code so it's in your favor.
Hey, I'm an architect.
Yeah, I hear you.
Chairman, I might be mistaken, but I thought I had read somewhere that this concept, maybe there's something similar to this in the Valley. I'm not sure if it's an OSO concept, but are you aware of anything else? I might very well be mistaken, but it's an interesting idea. I just love to know that it sort of works in practice.
I don't know where it came from. To me, it came from Brian's mind, so he's sitting there and seeing this vacant lot downtown that's ugly, and he's saying, what can I do to make it better?
Yeah. That's how I saw the project. So it came through loud and clear on that. Thank you. Appreciate that. Any other comments, questions? Anybody?
So the question I have is, so if this gets approved, sounds like we'll approve it with a condition of no DJs at this establishment, correct?
Correct.
And we're not going to condition the sound thing. Because that's a precedent I don't think we need to set.
I don't think we need to set that.
Okay.
Based on the explanation of how their sound system is going to operate,
Yeah.
it makes it a moot point in my
Okay.
mind.
All right. Thank you.
Uh-huh. Okay, I think we'll close the public hearing. Bring it to the dais for comments, questions, discussion, or a motion, and I'll entertain any of those. Commissioner Jones.
I'll make a motion to approve UP 21-12, the park, subject to the condition that we add the conditions that are included, as well as that there would be no DJ.
Okay. Staff, can we add that? Is that okay, Sydney?
Yes, that's good. I would maybe just add there would be no DJ on site.
That there would be no DJ on site.
Perfect. I'll second that. Second by Commissioner Blazer.
Not allowed to eat. You can't go to the bathrooms in Oso. None.
Wow. Wow.
I'll second the motion.
Commissioner Blazer already did. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? This meeting's gotten out of hand. Amy, bring us back on the track, would you? LDC, put us all to bed. Put us all to sleep. Amy, I can honestly say none of your presentations have ever put me to sleep. So you're incredible. So.
Well, this evening, Mr. Chairman, has been a long time coming, and it's a little surreal in a way. We are at the last Planning Commission meeting for the Land Development Code refresh. With that being said, over the last 2.5 years, almost 3, if we make it to November, which we're not, we will hit 3. But we have been undertaking the refresh, modernization, clarifying, update, reorganization of the Land Development Code, and we are here at the second to last meeting. This will move forward to Town Council on September 21st. With that being said, after we released the document for public review and comment on July 7th, we did have a RDC study session, and then we did have a Planning Commission study session on August 4th. If you'll recall, at that study session, there was 1 or 2 items that there was quite a bit of discussion about, and we're going to touch on one of those this evening. At the RDC public hearing, which was held on the 18th of August, we went over each of the different items that were discussed and any comments and modifications made to the Land Development Code since the last draft that the Planning Commission had reviewed. And so far, when we were going through with the Redevelopment Commission, they didn't have comments on most items. They agreed with the recommendations of the Planning Commission. But you will recall, as we flip through here, there was one particular discussion item about single-family detached or single-family housing in the Heritage District SF6, SF7, SFA, and SFD, and the height limitation that we were suggesting of 2-story instead of 36 feet unrestricted. And after lengthy discussion, if you'll recall, y'all took an informal vote, and it was not a unanimous decision. And the RDC had a similar conversation. They really struggled with it, just as you all did. And in the end, they wanted to recommend to the Planning Commission that the 36 feet as written in code be reinstated and not to restrict it to 2 stories. They felt that it was limiting creativity and architectural style, and that if staff did not feel that a custom home coming into one of those 4 zoning districts was meeting the stylistic requirements of the development guidelines, the design guidelines for the Heritage District. There is a provision within the design guidelines that was written in that said staff can escalate the application and take it up to the RDC for decision. And so if a home is out of proportion, out of whack, not having the right appropriate style per the architectural styles listed as approved by right, staff can escalate it. And they felt comfortable with that provision already being written into the design guidelines and a process being worked out by staff at this time, that 36 feet would allow for the attic rooms that we discussed. It would allow for roofline creativity. And there were, of the, I believe it was 7 styles that were allowed by right, about 4 of them, when I researched it further, could do a 3-story on a small lot that's small and narrow, and it would look proportionally correct. There were about 3 of the styles that were listed that would be somewhat difficult to achieve, and that's what they thought could escalate if that occurred. So the recommendation to the Planning Commission from the Redevelopment Commission was to accept the LDC as proposed, except for the modification of the 36 feet. That was written into the draft conditions that were and in the code that was provided to you as part of your documentation. That being said, staff is recommending approval of the Land Development Code refresh to move forward to the Town Council at the September 21st public hearing this month. So with that being said, if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them. And I'm going to make this the shortest presentation in the LDC that you've ever had. So.
Thank you. I appreciate that. My cheesecake's getting warm over here. So no, I'm just kidding. Amy, thank you. That was a great and I find it a welcome here, a welcome comment that the RDC also kind of challenged and worked with that. And so, and I really would prefer their opinion to hold. And I agree with that. So glad to hear that. They're the ones who kind of oversee that part of the town. And so I would let that be that way. So, because I don't want you to have to go to November on this one. So I'm not going to send you back for that. So anybody else have any comments? Okay.
I'll make a motion to approve the LDC refresh Z20-05 as recommended.
I'll second that.
Okay. So we have a motion by Vice Chair and a second by Commissioner Blazer. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Unanimous. All right. On to administrative items. Planning Commission meeting minutes. Consider the approval of the August 4th agenda or meeting minutes.
I will make a motion to approve the meeting minutes as presented.
Okay. Second. Second by Commissioner Jones. All in favor?
Aye.
We've already done 17, so moving on to 18. Report from Chairman and members of the Commission on current events. The current event is that we have a change in the guard, and I want to speak about that. So I'm glad y'all are here, stuck around. No, I'm just kidding. But really, it's been a great opportunity of mine, and just to show maybe a growth pattern, hopefully. I was excited that Sean Lake was lobbying for me to be on the Planning Commission. He's the one who called me and said, you really ought to apply. And I had admired Sean for a long time, and so to have anybody from Ralph Pugh's office kind of lobby for me, I was like, right on. Okay, I have arrived somewhere, somehow. So anyway, not really knowing what I was getting into, I'd presented before the Planning Commission, and had always enjoyed that opportunity in the town of Gilbert. And so being able to be on it was kind of a fun experience. So since then, in the 7.5 years or so, since March of 2017, I've been able to serve. And my family has enjoyed celebrating 99 birthdays. This is my wife and I and our kids and grandkids, okay? 7 anniversaries, 4 children got married, 4 grandchildren were born, 4 graduated from high school. When we moved to Gilbert, we looked at when we would start our kids going to high school. And we knew that we'd have kids at Highland High for 18 years. We're not going to make that. We're going to move. And then it's been a struggle to come to that decision. But I want to thank you all for the opportunity to interact with you and to learn from you and to serve in this way. And it's been a blessing in my life. I've attended 80 plus meetings. I've served with 20 plus commissioners. I've seen 4 or 5 staff members retire. There's only one planner left, Amy, from in those 7 years. And Kyle has also been here for that whole time. All the rest of you are young and fresh faced. Served under 3 mayors. I served on 1 planning commission, and I've served on 1 planning commission design review board, and went through that change when the town went to that. In 2014, there were 221,000 residents in Gilbert. And in 2021, it's approximated to be 262,000 residents of Gilbert. So it's grown. And if you want to blame me for all of the apartments, you cannot do that. That was not, while it might have happened on my watch, I didn't, I can't take blame for that entirely. So, but thank you, Gilbert. You've helped us grow up. This is where we call home. And it's a good place. Thank you. Okay, Ava.
More to say, just thank you all for serving on the commission, and a special thank you to our 2 departing members.
Okay. Meeting's adjourned. Yeah. It looks back. It looks expensive. I won't do that.